Welcome back to Website Critiques with Bryan and Chris. I'm Chris.
I'm Bryan.
And this is our second episode on GR design and photography. And last episode, we kind of really just focused on the homepage. And we talked about how it was a real doorway to the rest of the website. And now we're going to go ahead and click on the first link and go, I believe, into Baby Corner.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So just quickly, one of the things that I had mentioned in the last episode is that I thought it was a great idea that we've got this homepage here as like that window, a portal, a doorway, multiple doorways into multiple different hallways. I would imagine, right? Like, am I looking for a baby? Am I looking for headshots? Is what I'm assuming grown-up section means, which is great. However, what we discovered once we clicked one of them, our website just randomly refreshed. So one of the things I'm noticing is that this website is actually a little bit slow to load. I'm not sure if it's our internet here or not, but just something you want to make sure of is to test your website on different internets, different devices to make sure it's nice and speedy to load. Sometimes we're loading up like full-size images on these websites, and so if someone's on a slower internet connection, it might take a long time to load that website. So.
Interesting enough, I know a lot of you are concerned about search engine optimization. One of the major factors that Google has announced in the last couple of years is actually loading speed, especially when it comes down to mobile, right? Yep. We know that most of our users are actually browsing through mobile. So having a slow website it can be a real deal breaker. It could be costing you a lot of business, right? So
talk to me about, I could be wrong on saying this, but I'm pretty sure security is also a big thing now with SEO.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing this site, we've got this not secure button up here, so it's not HTTPS.
That's a recent Chrome edition, actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm pretty sure. Just be aware, right? I mean, you can get SSL certificates pretty cheap now.
You can actually get them for free.
Even, right?
Yeah. There's a big organization called Let's Encrypt that has been it's backed by Google and other big companies, and they're giving out free SSL certificates and stuff. So I would definitely talk to your web host about getting on board with that. If your web host is just really slow, then I would definitely look at moving. Yeah. And I'd be budgeting between $10 to $20 a month at least for your website hosting for somewhere reputable and stuff, for sure. It's just such an important part.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, back to the website.
So we're on the homepage, right? So again, we said we love that we've got these different doorways to go into different hallways, and what we realized once we clicked on Baby Corner is we're taken to this website, but I've still got these other options up here, and so I'm realizing now that it was less of a doorway system on that homepage. It was more just taking me to a different nav item on the actual website, which makes me feel like that homepage was less than useful because I could have just done the same thing coming in here.
For some reason, there's a link back to the homepage, which is less than useful.
Which isn't all that useful, right? So just some sort of things to think about, right? But in this whole idea of like identify yourself, and then we'll give you content based on how you've just identified yourself. I think that's something that you really, really have to pay attention to. We saw this last week. We're seeing it again here. I know I've seen it as a trend, but if someone says, hey, I want baby photos, only give them stuff about baby photos. Like, don't let them go into graphic design now. Like, the chances of someone that identifies as an expecting mom who wants newborn photos, the chance of them also wanting graphic design work or also wanting business headshots in this same sort of like session, this same season they're going through is pretty unlikely. So I just would prefer to see, let your client, let your visitor identify who they are, and then give them content only around that. Let everything else kind of fade into the background.
Yeah, for sure, especially for things like graphic design versus photography, right? There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like, the one thing I find a little bit difficult with this page is that there's nothing really speaking to me except for those pictures at the top. And there's not really anything telling me that I did click on Baby Corner except for this here. So you can make an argument, sure, it's black over the blue. But to be honest, if you sat a lot of people down, I'm willing to bet that a lot of people won't even notice that. They're going to start scrolling right away because they're going to look for more content, right? And then it comes down here, and it's starting to say a little bit, but it's in a really light color. The font's really small, and we can get into kind of all those in a minute, but I find there's no message. There's nothing really grabbing my attention and pulling me in and saying, okay, this is what this Baby Corner is. I would just like that. And I think one of the easiest ways, like when you're planning out your website or planning to change your website, is go ahead and Google what's it called, a flow chart, right? And create yourself a flow chart of all of your content. There's a saying on the web and in graphic design called "content is king," and it's so true. People come to your website for the content. They don't come to your website for the look of your website, right? It's pretty universal now. So having some sort of flow chart where you're actually saying, okay, like, this is the content that's going to be on my homepage. And then in this column here, I'm going to have, this is going to be the baby center, and this is the content that they're going to be, and I actually kind of try to flow chart out exactly the path that the user is getting or following when they're looking at your content. And then you could try to, craft that experience and help to craft the content, right? Just as a starting place.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. I think too, like when it comes to content, and again, I feel like we're beating a dead horse a little bit, but we talk a lot about design your website for one person. And you have to remember that although when you make your website, there's hopefully going to be hundreds and thousands of people that go to your website, but each one of those people are viewing it by themselves typically, or themselves and one other person or something like that. But they're reading it as if it's a conversation that you're having with them one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And so often it's easy to fall into the trap of wanting to sort of look bigger than you are, or be very generalist, or not really speak to one person because you feel like you're writing to hundreds of people, but they're reading it as if they're one person. And so I'm just seeing, like, for example, on here, and again, I don't know if this particular photographer is a big studio or not, but a lot of the times I see photographers falling into the trap of trying to look bigger than they are. They kind of use like the brand name again, like we are blah, blah, blah. And they use the word we a lot. And it's like, if it's just you, be open, be transparent, and just say like, one of the things I love is blah, blah, blah. Like it's okay to be a one-person photographer student. I don't know if that's the case here, but one of the things I notice here is that the only content he has on the page, and again, comments on it's too small in my opinion, right?
Right.
It's also very wide.
Very wide.
Yeah.
It's very uninviting.
You look at this entire paragraph is about the photographer, right? It's a natural progression of life. After a beautiful wedding day comes children, and then it's GR photography and design, so that's them, and then it says we obtain this. So it's like it's about them. I would rather be speaking to the person that's on my website.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you probably just got married and now you have children. Congratulations. You're probably excited about blah, blah, blah. Like, talk to them. If someone called you on the phone, you wouldn't want to just like go off and start like being like, well, okay, stop for a minute. Let me tell you about me, right? Like you want to be like,
you want to listen to them. You want to see what
them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and your website should kind of feel like that same conversation. I would think.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. The big thing, just really quickly here, design-wise, when text is really that long, people aren't going to want to read it. It's hard for the eye to track. Of course, it's going to look better on mobile. I also find that the text is a little too small, so I'd bring up the font size. I'd probably, if you're going to center everything else, center that as well, and bring it in as a nice tight paragraph, and then have it, of course, rewrite it so it's more natural and it's more talking to your client versus talking about yourself, right? For sure. And I find this is really strange. Like, I already know where I am, so why are you telling me again? Family photography, I thought you were calling this
baby corner.
Corner, so I wouldn't have that there. And then I think you're linking me to somewhere else, but they look the same, right? This isn't clickable, but these are. So be very careful with what's clickable, what's not. Using colors based on what's clickable. Like if green things that look like this are clickable, then always make them clickable, right? These are just ways you're trying to build familiarity in the design. So when someone's using your website, they actually know how to use the website, right? So those are my design comments.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think like having that style guide, right, of like having consistency so that when something is this color, it's always clickable. That's huge because it breeds that familiarity. When someone comes to your website, they start to learn what they can click, what they can't, what does certain things. Like it gets that familiarity. The other last comment I want to make on this page is it's interesting because on the home page we had motion where maybe there didn't have to be motion, but here I'm almost wanting this to be scrolling along, but it's not. And for me, initially, it's not intuitive to know like what's happening over here on the right side.
Actually,
like,
I just realized now.
So I'm assuming I can click, but
I didn't even know you could do that.
That wasn't super obvious to me, so I'd almost want there to be either arrows or I would want it to scroll slowly for me or just some better indication that there's things to happen on this page.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's actually, well, I don't know what just happened.
You went back.
It's actually really funny. I thought this was a continuation of this photo, and this was just overlaid over top. So I didn't even know you could move. Like, I like the idea of having a photo that's half cut off so you know that you could move over. It's trying to entice you to try to move over. However, I think it just looks too similar that it started to wash in, right?
Yeah, agreed.
And it actually almost feels broken, like trying to get over there. I don't even know how you did it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, that's it for this episode. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you in the next episode where we're going to dive deeper into this website.